You've probably seen it and also received it in your inbox. A lot of offers about lead generation. So the whole world actually focus on getting more leads and companies that can deliver that for you. But do you know that most companies actually they don't have a lead generation problem? They might think they have, but they don't. They have a problem in what's happening next. Welcome to this episode of the Revenue Emotion podcast, where we talk about why more leads rarely fix revenue problems. The problem is not lead generation, it's what happens next. We need more leads, right? That's what you hear. It's a most common response when the revenue slows down. Because you can measure it, you can feel it, it's actionable. But most B2B teams don't have a lead problem, they have a revenue flow problem. So why then many teams think about leads, and you see this all the time, that a lot of leads are requested, and that has been seen as the common issue. Well, it's also because it's an easy to measure thing. And to have a good insight in what's happened next, that requires other qualities, and it's much harder. So what leaders feel is they're not getting enough opportunities, but the reality, they might have enough opportunities, but they sit somewhere in the life cycle and they just have too little movement from one stage to the other. So in this episode, we focus on this, that more input is not the best thing what you can do. Look at better flow, and that will give you better results. Let's see how that works. So the illusion of the lead problem, and why lead generation is the most visible part. Well, lead generation sits on top of the funnel, and it's easy to see how much contacts we have, how much impressions, how much marketing qualified leads. So the key insights, it's quite visible and impact. It's much more difficult to see movement, to see the velocity of these things. So if we look at the image on the bottom of this page, on the left we have the market, and then every business more or less have these 4 different stages. Like a first stage is the first contact, reaching out, having contact, people must like you. Then to activate them, we call this leads, people will be interested in your services. Then there is a conversion moment from lead to client, and that has to do with more like factor and that they are interested in what we do. Building trust to become a client, and engage them to stay client as long as possible, right? And then there is an expansion to keep this client as long as possible. So you see already, it's important to make impact on all these stages basically at the same time. You must have an impact on all these different. It's all about the movement from left to right. It's a simple image, but it says everything. But what we see is that leads stall in the system somewhere. And then we say, oh, we need more leads. And marketing say, okay, no problem. I will do more activity, more channels. But then it's still very slowly, or it still stalls somewhere. And then repeat, oh, we need more leads. Okay, we do more activity. So the truth is that the input doesn't fix the broken system. It only makes it worse, because you're adding more activity, more, let's say, broken stuff in a broken system. So that is not the best thing to do. So let's have a look at where the revenue actually can break. And there are many points, of course, where this can happen across these different stages, what we've seen in this previous image. But let's just focus on a couple of obvious ones. And one of the first is a handover from lead to sales. Important is here again the movement. So marketing thinks, okay, we generate a lead and sales will take it from there, and that's it. And it's good enough. But what actually happens is that leads can take days before they reach a salesperson or the right salesperson. and there is no really a management of the transition moment. Marketing thinks, okay, we're done, we generated the lead, but is sales really following it up or not? And these discussions, you probably recognize it, that sales, they say, hey, but we do not get enough leads from marketing. Marketing say, yeah, but all these leads, what I generated, they sit in the system I gave you. Why you not follow up? So there is a misunderstanding. That is what happens. And that can have many different reasons, like, is it the right lead? Is it the right, qualification of a lead for sales? And many things. We will come to that in this presentation also a little bit longer. Another thing is then, we already touched on it a bit, is slow or inconsistent or no follow-up. So the team thinks, okay, sales will follow up on the leads, and we have the process in place. Recently, I spoke with somebody, I asked him about this process. And he explained, yeah, we have this and this and this and this process, and it all sounds fantastic. And they have all these things. And then in the end, he say, yeah, but nobody follow this. Nobody do that. So that you have the process already, quite a good thing that you already know. But I can tell you, in many organizations, let alone the definition, what is a sales qualified lead and what is a marketing qualified lead, is not clear at all. So then, how can we give sales leads that they want if we do not have a clear definition what it should be and how it should be delivered and when and so on and so forth? So then, of course, there is inconsistent follow-up as well. So what happens is that follow-up is, very reactive, or, okay, let's do some follow-up. It's like not a structured thing. It's not, a well-organized thing. And of course, you need to prioritize the right way. We come to that also. So many things can go wrong in this follow-up, but in many cases, it's a weak point. And also, of course, the fact that if marketing generate a lot of leads in different qualities, because it's not clear, then sales reps, they also get overwhelmed. CRMs are full, but full with what? And without this prioritization and good automation triggers, follow-up really depends on what you think about it. So that's another thing that really slows down this whole flow, what we just see. So other is, mostly in B2B deals are high ticket. So that means we have more stakeholders involved. That's an interesting one, because then we should reach out. And that's not the most important thing, to reach out to different stakeholders. The most important thing is to combine them, to bring them back to one and the same opportunity. Because we have different stakeholders, and that means, as an example, if one stakeholder we approach with a marketing campaign, they say there is an opportunity, they are interested. Guess now that at a certain point from this same company, a C-level person start checking out, maybe they download something, maybe they follow something, maybe they visit some pages. This might look like a low, low scoring activity if they only visit some pages. But in reality, because we have this deal, we have this lead, we have this opportunity going on, this is very high intent. Only visiting a C-level person, for instance, our website, it doesn't mean, oh, I have a visitor, just visit only a site, so it's not really so high value, we have to develop it further. No, but this person is part of an opportunity that is a much bigger and important opportunity. And the fact that the C-level person visit our site and look around to consume some content, that is really important. So the system should recognize that. If we don't manage these multi-stakeholder things, that really also slows down. you can imagine the other way is true. If we identify this, it can really speed up the whole flow. Okay, then there is also deal stall after positive signals. What I mean by that, that is, if we see some very positive signals, we might think, oh, we are doing well. Everything will be fine. We know the stories. Say, yeah, I like your service. I like what you have to offer. And I will do so. Yeah, give me some time. I will organize the budget and I come back to you. Okay, we wait. Nothing happened. So that means the signal was positive, and they are. But many things happen along the way, and there are many moving parts involved. So that means you cannot just leave it like this. Positive signals create false confidence, right? So you must always know what is the next step, and to avoid maybe later kind of situations. So also there, don't think too positive before you have the result. And I know from my early sales activities that we had one sales manager, and he always say, we only celebrate when the ink on the paper signed for the order is dry, right? So it's like this. So before this time, we just cannot celebrate. And the same is here. So we have to really track the movement, the velocity across all these different activities, even when there are very positive signals. Other thing is that closed deals never convert to retained revenue. There is a close relationship between how clients are onboarded and then the retention that they see. So onboarding and retention are closely related to each other. So then you do all the work, right? And we finally have this client. And then we start working with this client. But many companies, they don't even have a well-organized onboarding process. So what does it mean? That we do not pay so much attention to getting the new client up and running with our services, with our product. And that really results in low conversion rates, in retention rates, So the reality is, it's very important to have a very clear handoff between sales and customer service. And in between sit this handover, this onboarding. And that must be really well managed. Otherwise, we see that the retention is much more lower. And across all these different things what we now discuss, there is a common pattern which you can recognize, and that is to do with ownership, especially between one stage and the other. So between marketing and sales, in this moment, in this transition, who is then responsible? Is marketing and sales, is both? Yeah, that's a gap. And the same is sales and customer service. Who is responsible for the onboarding between sales and service? Companies struggle with that, also with this ownership. Is the sales still then responsible for the delivery, or is it delivery and sales is not longer responsible? So these things are very important to consider, how you can manage the transition moments or the whole flow. Other thing is timing. Like I said, lead is qualified, lead sit. What is the follow-up moment? Oh, sales is busy, they're on the way, whatever, we do it later, right? So that means timing can really lose momentum. And there has been all kind of research done that timing matters a lot. And this all is related to visibility. If we don't know how many qualified leads sit there as a, let's say, sales ready lead waiting for me as a salesperson to follow up, if I do not see this clearly or I do not receive a clear signal, then how can I act on it? So we deliver systems that give a notification when there is a new lead. So that means when a lead is qualified, exactly this moment, sales is then notified that there is a new lead and they can take immediate action. Okay, so let's see what are the next steps. The cost of more leads. Well, cost per lead is of course a very important factor, and you can say that if you have these kind of things, the cost per lead will raise when we have of course the life cycle flow slowing down. And when we see the slowdown, we can say, okay, we generate more leads, then the costs go up. But if the revenue not go up one-on-one, so if we double the leads, the revenue is not doubling, that means the cost will go up higher than that we see the results and the model is broken. The other thing what we then see is that you all the time work harder, harder, harder. So the marketing team, they do more activities to get the leads. And sales team, they do the same. But because it's so broken system, then everybody's working harder for less results. So this is not really motivational, first of all. And the other thing is that it's involving a lot of cost. And the most you lose actually by lack of visibility, what we just discussed, by not seeing what's going on. So that's one of the first things to focus on, to see what's going on and focus on this visibility. The collaboration between these teams, that's another thing, what really costs a lot of energy, because we know the situation, sales blame marketing, that the leads are just not good enough, and marketing is complaining about sales. If they don't work together, so they don't have an understanding, they don't have a common goal, they don't have a common definition, what is a good lead or a marketing lead. If they don't have an agreement together, how many leads must be delivered. So if they don't talk to each other, if they don't have common understanding about the business, then you can understand that that is costing a lot of effort and cost. So that really does not create a good growth level. It's more noise, cost, and frustration. And let's see what we can do about it. So what actually fixes revenue problems because of this flow stalling? First of all, to think about two things: ownership and timing. We already touched on it a couple of times. It's not about measuring the activity, but we must measure the momentum. Timing, it's much more also important than perfection. Many times I talk about imperfect action, and that's difficult. I also struggle with this myself. But to follow up on a lead within 2 hours after the lead appears, like I said, with such a notification of a new lead, and you respond to it within 2 hours, it's much better than do a perfect follow-up after 2 days. So you can better immediately grab the phone, and maybe your follow-up is not perfect, but that has more effect than that you completely prepare a presentation and nice, let's say, think about the exact wording you want to do in the call and to make the first impression, and after 2 days you call. Probably person say, who are you? I do not recall that I downloaded something. I have examples that I sent such a beautiful white paper about something, and days after they downloaded this, I just contact people and say, hey, you downloaded my white paper. What do you think about it? And they say, what white paper? I don't know. I download many things, so I'm not sure about your white paper. Yeah, so doesn't really matter. But if you immediately after they download it, you receive this signal and you follow up, they most likely will remember what they just did, right? So timing over perfect. The other thing is flow over stages. So we can focus on how many marketing qualified leads do we have? Okay, that's cool. We have marketing qualified. How many sales qualified leads? Oh, more cool. How many opportunities? That is cool. We have a lot of opportunities. Opportunities are almost orders. But what if these opportunities sit there for months? It looks like an opportunity, but we did not really consider if the opportunity is also, let's say, having any motion, movement, flow. So flow is much more important. You might have a first contact, what flows very smoothly through the different stages and become a client. It's much better and more important than a bigger opportunity that sits there for weeks or months and not move at all. So having opportunities fine in sales qualified leads and so on and so forth. But more important is what's going on in the velocity, in the movement. So we don't like to stall these things. It must be in movement. To do so, then fix one break. We cannot fix the whole entire funnel at one time. We all know the Pareto rule, right? The 80-20 rule. That 20% of a course is then the result of 80%. So that means the same apply here. So it will be that 20% of our problems, 80% of the revenue problems is caused by 20% of breaks. So we should find the breaks. And you can even though do 80-20 and then double, so 80-20 do on 80-20, and then it is something like 3% of your problem is responsible for, I think it was 67% of the result. So that means focusing only on this one thing has a tremendous effect on the other. And then also measure the impact, not the activity. And also a story here. We all know about events, and it's a lot of work to organize an event. Companies are very happy when all these things work out the way they want. So they did all the activities, and after the event, like, whew, and let's celebrate, everything went well, we had a good event, we have a lot of new contacts, etc., etc. And then it stops. So that was the activity by itself. So, but what was the impact from this? And the impact only comes by taking more actions. It's not a one thing. So the activity itself, it's something what you have to do. But more important is, how does it fit in the complete flow, and what impact have it on the complete flow? So you can do a lot of activities. Sometimes I see situations where I see the marketing plan and the marketing planning, and then I'm impressed, like week on month, it's full of activities and lots of things. But even though the management complain about, marketing is not delivering enough result or value, then I think, how come? Because I see all these things, publications, mailings, events, webinars, seminars, name it, demonstrations, many things going on. But then you can ask yourself, hey, wait a minute, the activity is not a problem. But the problem might be what impact you create with those activities. And is it the right activity, the right time to create the impact that you need to move contacts forward in this flow, in this revenue funnel? So it's not about how much leads did we generate. So it's more how much leads moved from one stage to the other, moved forward. That is the question. And not like, okay, we generated 50 leads over the last week. So that's cool. I'm more interested how many leads moved from marketing qualified to sales ready. And these are metrics to focus on. What actually fixes then revenue problems? So if we see these things, so from diagnostics to direction. And visibility is the first thing. You must see what's going on. And so recently we implemented a visibility to a sales team. So they all have a territory with a lot of clients, and there are all kind of prospects in this area as well. But they had no clue what these people actually buy exactly, or what is the behavior exactly. And we just opened up, we give them access to the journeys of all regional contacts in their region. And that is very valuable for these people, because now all of a sudden they see what is the activity or the non-activity for all these people, who are engaging, who are not engaging. And then you can also sit together with your marketing team to find out what to do to fix movement issues. So come back to that in a moment as well. What can really help, of course, is in this movement and dashboarding, it's AI tools. AI tools that tell you what's moving, what is not moving, and where are the, let's say, the bottlenecks. And not in the way to automate things, what is a robotic kind of approach. So that is, of course, a threat or a trap where you can easily step into, because there are a lot of offers like, hey, AI can do all things. And in a way, it can do many things, but you must be careful that you don't use it like an automation, what is for you then pleasant, that a lot of work has been done by the agent, but then it becomes like a robotic response. That's not what we want. We want a personal, reach out, personal response. So you can follow this checklist, what I have here on the right side. And you can ask yourself, can you see the full customer journey? Like I said, these problems with what we just implemented for a corporate organization, that the sales team, no, they did not see the full customer journey. But now they can. So do you see the full customer journey? That's first of all. And then the other question is it clear what is the ownership of these different stages? So what's exactly the ownership of the first part? Where does it end, and where does it start for the next part? So that is always an interesting question. Like, example, when do you like to involve sales? Some teams say, okay, I'm busy enough, I don't need to have all kind of leads that are not ready to buy. So they say, we want sales ready leads. And then you can ask yourself, okay, then we need to discuss about what is a sales ready lead. That must be very clear, crystal clear, I would say. Otherwise, it doesn't work. But other teams say, well, before it is that I must take sales action, I like to see what's coming. So they would like to see what is marketing qualified leads, as an example. But not to take immediate action themselves, but to see what's going on and what's happening. So that's important then to measure that and to also organize that. Then the other thing is, do you measure momentum or just activity, like we just discussed? Is it the number of activities, like how many events do we do this year? How many product promotions do we do this year? Or do we say, hey, we did a product promotion and that gave us so many new movement, new, let's say, contacts, new leads, whatever. So we see things change. What are the changes because of this activity? Then can you identify breakpoints in real time? Do you see the breakpoints? If you measure all things, you can of course see, hey, there is a stalling point, something not moving to the next stage. So we see a breakpoint. And do you use AI to make these things clear? In our methodology, 𝗪𝗵𝘁 RevOps methodology, we clear these things for the system, for the company. So that helps support them to give them an intelligent routing, like, and to set priorities in real time and to give them visibility. Okay, where we go here. So, signals that you are experiencing this situation, that you have these problems. Well, do you recognize one of these things or a couple of these things? So, you have leads, and the leads are good, but the final result still is not what you would like it to be. And remember this flow, what I said in the beginning, you have the market. So already an interesting thinking point is it all starts that if you have leads, okay, but are these leads pointing out your ideal client profile, as an example? Oh, but what is your ideal client profile? Do you have that? Is that clear? What exactly is it? And how many leads actually match this ideal client profile? So maybe you have a lot of leads, they look like okay, but they're not so much matching your ideal client profile. What mean that they not flow very easily through these different stages, logic, because they're not so ideal for your product or services. So you see there, it all starts by the beginning, by a strategic decision. And then the flow, of course, that is already an indicator that the flow not works. So one of my first questions is always like, how does this look like, your ideal client profile? Do you have this very clear? And is your outreach also focused to get these people into the door? Okay, your CRM looks full, but forecasting is still unreliable. We all recognize this, I think. In the CRM system, it's full of leads. We have a lot of opportunities, so sales can be happy because opportunities, they have a quite high probability score for the pipeline. However, if they are just standing still, then nothing happens. So if you have this, so you have a lot of opportunities, you have a lot of qualified leads, you have a lot of things in the system that look healthy, but if you not see any movement, not any flow, then you cannot predict that this will be revenue. So the velocity is just not there. So that's another signal that it is a flow issue. Sales says follow-up is hard to prioritize. Yeah, again, if your system is full, what then you do? And where do you start with your follow-up? You can have a lot of opportunities for sales to follow up, but how to prioritize those? Because you can just try top-down, it's a simple thing, but much better is to use something like lead scoring to have an idea, not only what is the right person, but also what is the lead that gives you the right behavior, the right intention. So the soft factors, the behavioral factors, what they do, are they willing to flow or not? They're just sitting there. When the retention feels disconnected from acquisition, yeah, we discussed this before, that when you would like to have a high retention factor, then you must focus on everything what happens before. So if you see that retention is problematic, then it might be a flow problem, as an example what we discussed about the onboarding, but also what happens before. Marketing keeps launching new campaigns. Yeah, of course. If we see that we do not have enough results, we want more results, so we start pushing more campaigns, more activity, more channels, social, non-social, events, direct, indirect, etc., more. But the question is not more. The question is, do we do the right thing at the right moment? So do you recognize a couple of these things? If so, then you have a revenue flow challenge. And the good news is, of course, that it can be fixed. And it all starts with visibility. And you can do a self-assessment. By the end of this presentation, I will give you a tool that you can use just to have an understanding how that works in your company. And you can have an understanding of the flow and where you see where it stops. So that I will give that to you. So one action plus reflection. Map the first 14 days to just have an understanding what's going on. So you can map, for instance, the first 14 days, hear me, 14 days after a lead enters into your system, what happens? So you can identify the touch points that you have. You can use a simple schedule for that. If you would like to have a schedule what we use, then please reach out and I will give it to you, where you can see what different touch points you have and what different touch points you don't have, and who is touching this lead, and also what is the timing between these different touch points. There's always a misunderstanding about timing and how many touch points. But the reality nowadays is that you need a lot of touch points. And then there is also a difference between activity and touch point. What I mean by that, so you can reach out many times, but do you reach, actually, do people see your message? You can post many messages, you can send many emails, but how many of these are really that somebody read it, that somebody see it, that somebody take note of it? And a real touch point, that means there is an interaction between your content and your person that you like to contact. So you need to understand how this is, and you need quite a lot of them to make it flow. What we discussed, find the biggest gap and fix that first. You can ask yourself the question, if you doubled your leads tomorrow, will your revenue actually also double? And if you see this in an honest way, and if the answer is no, you know where to focus, then it's really a flow problem. And be careful, because then if you double the activities and you push marketing, do better, do more, then you might be in a difficult situation, because you're increasing cost without fixing the real problem that sits in the revenue flow. In the next episodes, we will focus on specific areas where you can focus what you can do. And one of the first is the handover between marketing and sales, or the connection between marketing and sales, or the collaboration between marketing and sales. How important and how you can improve it in a simple way that really gives you much better results. It's a big thing to improve, and most companies struggle with this, and they sit still in a siloed situation there. Okay, we come to the end of this episode. So what are key takeaways from this episode? Lead volume is a misleading metric. So it's more than only lead volume. And focus on the complete life cycle, not only on this, because otherwise you create noise. That's what we discussed. There are a lot of hidden costs if your revenue flow is broken. So if you struggle from profitability, or the cost per sale is too high, the cost per lead is too high, then focus on the flow, on the different stages. And there you can really reduce cost. It can be much more efficient, can be a lot of better flow, mean lower cost. How to identify your first high impact break. Yeah, we discussed that it may make really sense to focus on this high impact breaking point. Fix it first, and that gives the most benefits. And that retention is always affected, but what happened in the stages before. So, like I said, I have a revenue flow diagnostic for you. You can download this for free. You can play around with this to have an understanding by filling in this and see where the revenue is leaking and how much revenue is leaking. And because it takes you to different stages, and if you just think, but I don't know what to do with this stage, that means you maybe don't have this stage, you don't have this activity, and that's already an improvement point by itself. So for now, I thank you so much for your attention in this episode. Looking forward to see you in the next one, where we focus on more in detail how we can improve your revenue flow, bring down your cost, and increase your revenue. See you then. Thank you so much.